Hello guys, Greg back with another video. So this is part 4 of my cheap but good fragrance series that I've been doing. I'll leave a link below for the previous 3 videos that I did. So today I'm reviewing the one that you can see here. This is Legend from Michael Jordan. So this one was released in 1997. It's an eau de cologne. I'll describe it as woody aromatic, woody spicy, maybe even oriental, but the best description, this one's a straight up gourmand. Now it gets compared to several fragrances, mainly Rochard and New Harlem by Bond Number 9. It's not a copy of either of those. In fact, this came out before either of them, so if anything, they're copies of this. To me, it's closer to New Harlem than it is Rochard or anything else. I'll talk a bit more about that in the video. In fact, there's quite a lot of this review will be a comparison to other fragrances, so if you haven't smelt those other fragrances, apologies for that, but I'll try and make it as relevant for everyone as I can. So before we get into it, let's have a look at the presentation quickly. Really nice box this. You've got the black and with the gold surround. You've got Michael Jordan's trademark silhouette that he has on all of his products. And Michael Jordan's signature there. There's a batch code on the bottom of the box and some information. Nothing particularly exciting, but it's actually a really nice presentation, especially when we talk about the price point, which we'll get to. And here's the bottle again. Quite a nice bottle. You've got this clear area here and then opaque surround with the Michael Jordan signature silhouette there. Batch code on the bottom, which does match the box, thankfully. Again, on the back you've got the silhouette as well. Rubber cap, sprayer. It's actually not a very good sprayer. It does dribble a little bit. Distribution's not too bad, but it's not a particularly good sprayer. So there you go. There's a presentation. So let's get into this one and what I actually get from it. I'll list the official notes for this now above. So there's not a whole lot of development in this fragrance. Not a real great list of descriptions that I can give you. According to the note breakdown, it starts out with bergamot, lavender and anise. Now I don't get any bergamot from this. I just get a big hit of lavender and anise, and I also get coffee straight from the start as well. The anise in here reminds me a lot of Lolita Lempica's Eau Masculin. It's softer and less pronounced here, but there's a definite similarity. Now when you get to the mid of Legend, there's a very slight hint of leather and a slightly bigger hint, but still a hint of patchouli. I don't think you'd even know the leather was there, and maybe even the patchouli as well, unless you were really analysing the fragrance. Obviously when I do these reviews, I wear these fragrances constantly for weeks, actually months, before I review them, so I do analyse them a lot, and when I really sniff my arm and try and dissect the notes, I can pick out these extra bits. But if I'm just wearing the fragrance casually, the leather's just lost behind the coffee and the lavender and the anise, and the patchouli's really muted as well. The base on this doesn't change very much, apart from you get the addition of some amber and some musk. The amber is reasonably prominent. It doesn't really alter the direction of the fragrance particularly, if that makes any sense. So it just kind of adds a bit of backbone, and then you get the musk as well. Now when I talk about the 3 stages of this fragrance, bear in mind that these 3 stages all happen within 30 minutes on my skin. So it's not a great development, and the fact that it changes, or almost the whole life of the fragrance in terms of development, is 30 minutes, it makes it even more difficult to try and break it down and pick parts out. So hopefully, I've done my best on that. So going back to the comparisons with other fragrances, the Legend doesn't have vanilla or tonka in, which New Harlem has. It does use amber in quite a similar way, and also the amber's similar to that in Rochard. Now if you haven't tried those other 2, to try and explain a little bit, Legend's more about coffee really, and it's like a slightly less sweet coffee than New Harlem. New Harlem's more like one of those really sweet coffees. Now I don't know anything about coffee, I don't drink it, but I've smelt like frappuccinos, cappuccinos, that kind of thing, which is kind of what the New Harlem smell is. Legend's nearer to a normal, slightly less sweet cup of coffee. It's still sweeter than a standard cup of coffee, but it's not that real, sickly sweet. Now as I mentioned before, the very start of the fragrance reminds me of Lolita Lempica Eau Masculin, and that's just because of the anise note in there. They're very similar, but the main comparison, as I said, is with New Harlem. Now Legend is a long way short of being as good as New Harlem. It's not surprising. I mean, this product's less than £15, which is, I don't know, 22, 23 bucks for 100ml, so it's not going to be the greatest frag ever, but it's certainly good in terms of bang for buck, in terms of the smell anyway. The smell is comparable to Rochard, but again, it's not as good a quality fragrance. If I was advising someone of which one to start with out of those three, I'd go with Rochard. It's a few pounds more than Legend, but it's worth spending that little bit extra in my opinion. Unless you love this, I wouldn't even consider looking at New Harlem, because New Harlem's going to be 10 times the cost. So whilst it's a much more superior fragrance, if you don't like the smell of this one, don't bother looking at New Harlem. So purpose wise, occasion, this should be a good night out fragrance because it's very sweet, food like, it attract people. The problem is it doesn't really perform well enough for a night out. If you were going to wear this for a wear at night out, you'd need to carry a decant with you and you'd be constantly reapplying it. For me, this is best as a casual scent for autumn and winter. I'd wear this in the spring in the UK because it's still freezing cold most of the springtime, but in warmer climates it'd be strictly autumn and winter because this is really a cold weather fragrance. Performance wise, this is where it falls down. It's definitely short lived on my skin. I've heard some people say this is like an 8 to 12 hour fragrance with really good sillage and projection. I get about 2 hours, maybe 3 tops of total longevity with honestly maybe 20 minutes of projection and sillage. So I know other people say it performs well, so it could be maybe this has been reformulated, maybe it's just my skin, but it doesn't work on my skin. When you hear the price, you can't really complain too much, I guess. As I mentioned before, in the UK this is available for less than £15 for 100ml. You can find it on allbeauty.com, and if you buy through one of the cashback sites like Quidco, you can get another 6.5% back cash back from All Beauty on all purchases as well. So that's worth looking at. So finally, the ratings. So longevity wise, I'm only going to be able to give it 5.5 out of 10. It doesn't last at all on my skin. Projection and sillage, even slightly less, a 5 out of 10. Now, for smell, whilst this lasts, it's great. I absolutely love the smell of this. So for actual smell, I'm going to give it 8 out of 10. Value-wise, again, 8 out of 10. For the smell, it should be worth more than that, but I've got to factor in the poor performance. And again, it could just be me, my skin, but it doesn't perform well, so that's going to affect it, and the value therefore is 8 out of 10. And overall, taking everything into consideration, I'm going to give Legend a 7 out of 10. So there you go, guys, that's the end of another review. Thank you ever so much for watching. Please do rate, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you all soon. Cheers.